Welcome back, Mrs. Johnston, Knowledge and Social Studies time. We are still working on Unit 9, Columbus and the Pilgrims, and we are on Lesson 7, The Voyage of the Mayflower. Who were the separatists? The separatists were people in England who did not want to share the king's religion. They did not want to attend the Church of England or pray as the king prayed. Why did they decide to leave England? The separatists decided to leave England because the king was trying to punish them for not sharing his religion. The separatists were about to begin a pilgrimage or journey to this continent that was brand new to them. From here on, they would be known as the Pilgrims. A pilgrimage usually refers to a special kind of trip, one made for religious reasons, like that of the separatist. People who go on a pilgrimage are called pilgrims. When the separatists became pilgrims, the separatists became pilgrims when they decided to make the long journey across the ocean to worship as they pleased. This particular group of separatist pilgrims is known in America today simply as pilgrims. Today's read aloud is about the pilgrim's trip to the New World. Listen carefully to find out what happens on their journey across the Atlantic Ocean. On a warm September day in the year 1620, 102 men, women, and children gathered in the port town of Plymouth, England. They walked up the gangplank of a small sailing ship, bound for a new life in America. Most of the passengers were separatists. Passengers are people just traveling on the ship, but not the crew sailing it. They were not only leaving their country behind, but they were leaving their identity as separatists behind as well. They were now pilgrims, making a pilgrimage in search of religious freedom in the New World. The name on their ship, the name of their ship was the Mayflower. It was not meant to be a passenger ship. It was not meant to be a ship to carry people. Rather, it had been used to carry cargo or goods to and from France for many years. The pilgrims were crowded into an area beneath the main deck, along with the ship's cannons. "We do not expect trouble," the ship's master told the pilgrims, "but we must be ready in case it comes." Pirates patrol these waters, looking for treasure and wanting to capture unprotected ships. The passengers took turns going up on deck for fresh air and exercise. Despite the calm seas, a few of the passengers, unused to the constant motion of the ship, felt ill. They were seasick. The air between decks was often stale, adding to their discomfort. Gradually, they grew used to their cramped, are crowded conditions on board the Mayflower. The Atlantic Ocean, however, was only waiting until they were far from shore to spring her traps on them. "Storm clouds, Captain!" cried a sailor one day. "Aye, aye," replied the captain. "See to it that everyone and everything is tied down so it won't wash overboard. If we start taking on heavy seas, warn the passengers to do the same." Overboard means over the side of a boat or ship into the water. Soon enough, the storms and high winds of the North Atlantic struck with fury. Now, even those who had so far been untroubled by the ship's motion felt sick. The Mayflower, tossed high on huge waves, was lifted and dropped down forcefully again and again. Rains poured down upon the ship and dripped between the decks. A few men offered to help the crew. One was tightening some ropes when a great wave hit the Mayflower from the side. Before he could grab his rope, the wave struck with all its might. With a cry, the man was thrown over the side. "Man overboard!" yelled the ship's navigator. 3 men rushed to the side of the ship, throwing ropes toward the struggling man. He managed to grasp one of them and held on desperately as he disappeared beneath the water. Sputtering and gasping for air, he bobbed up to the surface, still holding the rope in his hands. The sailors drew him closer to the ship, and reaching over the side, one of the sailors grasped the man's arm and pulled him to safety. Fortunately, the storm soon blew itself out, but the passengers remembered their fear. After that, few of them dared to go on deck except in smooth seas. At last, on a clear, cold November day, the cry went up, "Land ho!" They left in September, so they'd been on the ship for almost 2 months. If a monthly calendar is near you, see if mom or dad can show you what 2 months look like. "Glory to God!" the pilgrims cried. Glory means praise or honor given to someone who is important or does something good. They had crossed the wide ocean and reached the eastern shores of North America at last. The pilgrims left Europe and arrived in America. The pilgrims had no idea what to expect of the new land ahead of them, but they had heard stories of native people living there. So while they called their destination or landing place the New World, perhaps it was not such a new world after all. Who were the people sailing to America? Separatists from England. On what continent did they start their voyage? Europe. To what continent were they traveling? North America. What was the name of the ship that carried the pilgrims to America? The Mayflower. Why were the separatists called pilgrims? Pilgrims travel long distances, often for religious reasons, and that is what the separatists were doing. How long were the passengers on board the Mayflower? The passengers were on board the Mayflower from September to November of 1620, so they were on board for about 2 months. What dangers did the Pilgrims face on the ocean? They faced the threat of pirates, storms, big waves, and falling overboard. Were the Pilgrims comfortable as passengers on the Mayflower? Why or why not? No, the Pilgrims were not comfortable on the Mayflower. They were on a cargo ship, not a passenger ship. It was cramped, and they had to stay between decks. The air was stale, and many got seasick. What is the difference between a cargo ship and a passenger ship? A cargo ship carries goods. A passenger ship carries people. What might a passenger ship have on it that a cargo ship would not? A cargo ship wouldn't have seats or comfortable places for people to stay like a passenger ship would. Mrs. Johnston hopes you enjoyed our story today called The Voyage of the Mayflower.